right, how's everybody doing today? Good. All right. Feel that inspiration? I'm J.K. McKnight. I'm founder of Forecastle Foundation, and Man of the Land, the Art of Impact. And here today to talk with you about the art of impact. And what is the art of impact? Well, for me, it's simple actions that lead to global solutions for the climate change crisis. And, solutions all start with ideas. And most of the time, they start with very simple ideas. But ideas are very powerful, but they don't do anything by themselves. They have to be put into action. They require a critical mass of people to not only believe in them, but to act on them. And that's something I've done in my life. How many people out here have heard of Forecastle Festival? All right, everybody, great. All right, now here's another question. How many people out there know how many people were at the first Forecastle? Not many, okay. So I'll give you a hint. It was a lot less people that's in this room today. And, back then I was 21 years old, and I had a very simple idea. Let's bring the Louisville music community together for a day of camaraderie and networking in a scenic outdoor environment. That's it. That was the very first Forecastle. There was no 5-year plan. There was no, nationwide global domination kind of thinking going on at all. It was very, very simple and very organic and very grassroots. But what happened is when that little spark happened, and I took the right people and I put them in the right place and I let them do what they naturally do together, an amazing thing happened. Forecastle started with 65 people in 2002. Today there's over 65,000. And they come from all over the world. 49 states, 2,500 cities, 13 countries. They come from everywhere. And they've all coalesced around a very, very simple idea. And that idea was, how do you take like-minded people, bring them together over shared values, shared purpose, and create something transformative? And that's what we did. The impact of Forecastle has been tremendous. In our community, over $100 million of economic impact. On the planet, we have a conservation coalition now where we have projects going on in 6 countries and 3 continents right now. Been working for over 10 years on that. In so many amazing places and people it's impacted in between. And again, that all kind of came from a very simple idea that over time and over years, tens of thousands of people coalesced around. And they took these very impactful actions that we were promoting at the festival, and they brought that home with them across 2,500 cities, 49 states, 13 countries. And they brought it into their homes, they brought it into their lives, and they started spreading it throughout their communities. And that became a real transformative moment for me to see that, because it not only changed people's mentality all over the country, but it changed our entire industry and moved it into a positive direction when it came to environmentalism and how to have a sustainable event and how to educate people but also entertain them too. So today I'm going to talk about 3 fundamentals, 3 very simple fundamentals that led to me creating this transformative, impactful platform for environmental change. The first one is create the environment. So I don't know if anyone's familiar with Jim Collins or read a book called Good to Great. If you haven't yet, I'm sure you will, especially if you're going into the business world. But there's a great book that makes a very strong argument that, it's not coming up with the idea and then building the team around the idea. Let's do the opposite. Let's go ahead and let's put the right people on the bus, put them in the right positions, and then let's all collectively come up with the idea. And that's something we did with Forecastle. Forecastle, as I explained earlier, just started as a music event. It was a concert. It was no different than tens of thousands of live music events that happen every single year. And, that second year when we were going into it, and I started thinking, okay, we had a music event. It was great. We drew a lot of people, but something's missing. Something's not here. The right people aren't on the bus. So I looked at my community and I said, okay, let's look at the fabric of our community. Let's look at the cultural institutions and pillars of Louisville, Kentucky. Music is one, but what about art and activism? All of those groups commingle. They all hang out together. When I'm out, I'm hanging out with artist friends of mine. I'm hanging out with people that are into environmentalism. Why are all of us not sharing the same platform for change? Why are we not all speaking from the same podium? It didn't require a lot of thinking for me to understand that we're missing something. So let's add art and activism to the component. So year 2 Forecastle, we added art and activism to the component, and guess what happened? The audience size exploded. We tripled attendance every single year for 3 years with the same budget. No more marketing spends, no major changes other than adding the right people on the bus. And that's been, an incredible experience for me because it really got me out of my own head to think, okay, we're all thinking too much sometimes. A lot of the change you want to make in the world can be very simple, it can be very intuitive. And I realized that first year that we were missing something. And I added those 2 components, and it made an incredible change. So once you have your platform for change, as we then had music, art, activism, what do you do next? You inspire the change. So once you have your platform, you have to take it to the masses. And that requires a great message, a great mantra, a great way to spark curiosity throughout the world. And that's all you really have to do is spark curiosity. Just open that door just a little bit for people to want to peer through it. And that's what we did. So once we had music, art, activism, which was everything we were and everything we wanted to be, we didn't stop there. We came up with more messaging that we thought would engage more people. So I'll give you one great example. We came up with a line, and it was called Where the Midwest Connects. Forecastle, music, art, activism, where the Midwest connects. What did that mean? Well, that means, why make Forecastle exclusive to Louisville? We sit in a region here, we have 10 million people within 2.5 hours. Cincinnati, Indianapolis, St. Louis, Nashville, Bloomington, all of these cities. Why not invite their music, art, and activism communities to Louisville? Why not give them ownership of this event? And so I traveled around the country for years, around the whole region and the country, and was spreading that. And going into a city and them seeing on these giant 24 by 36 posters that we put all over the city, for them to see their city in there and them look at the lineup and see their musicians and their artists and their environmental groups, that was a change. That opened that door. That sparked that curiosity in them. This is different. This is inclusive. This is reaching out to me, to my family, the things I care about. And that created a change. And suddenly, just like the first part, when we came up with music, art, activism, and that tripled the attendance, suddenly we started seeing people pour in from all over the region. And that's really led to what Forecastle's become, which is an international event, because we kept just growing that and expanding that base beyond just the Midwest, but throughout the South and then throughout the entire country. So that was a very, very important moment for us. So once we had kind of started that momentum and really started building what I thought was a real movement with very simple actions. Again, this wasn't hardcore business strategy. This was just thinking naturally, the natural evolution of an event. What's the next step there then to keep growing and to keep being relevant and to keep your dream alive? Innovation. So I say innovation is the lifeblood of any business, nonprofit, and of course the environmental movement itself. You have to innovate every day in every way. And innovation is something we think about constantly with Forecastle. How do we first innovate within those music, art, activism pillars? So let's take a look at that for a second. So musically, Forecastle started out as one genre, rock music. I think I've headlined, the first Forecastle, maybe the first 2. But then a couple years later, I was like, that's being exclusive. We need to be more inclusive here. So let's invite other genres. And we started doing that throughout the regions by looking into these communities that we were now engaged with and inviting the best of the best down to Louisville, Kentucky to share this platform with us. And that was a really incredible experience for us. We now have over 650 artists that have performed at Forecastle. We have dozens of genres that are represented. It's very much a global festival at this point. So we constantly innovated within music, and then the same thing with art. We started off with one medium with art. I think we started with sculpture. Today, you can see large installation work at Forecastle, incredible visual design, mixed media, all types of platforms and disciplines that artists throughout our communities are engaged with. And it's very well representative of not only the Midwest and the South, but of the whole country. And third, activism, environmentalism, why we're doing this in the first place. And that's something we've really looked hard at, and I think that's probably the one we've spent the most time at looking at. How do we be the most sustainable festival on the planet? Can we do that in Louisville, Kentucky? Of course we can. We can do it anywhere. So we started looking at everything around our operation and organization to make it more sustainable. We looked at everything from food to energy, fuel, cups and plates. There was nothing too big and nothing too small that we didn't examine under a microscope to see how we could be more sustainable. I remember in 2006, we went against, all the tradition and got rid of every single concession item, that wasn't locally sourced, that wasn't healthy. I remember in 2013, we were the first festival to go to completely carbon neutral in this region. I remember bringing prominent speakers in for the first time, like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., to speak about not only what we can do in the festival landscape to make it sustainable, but also in our own communities, which is where everything starts. So that was really, really important and really big, to continue moving that flywheel, that industry flywheel, to a place it's never been. And on even a larger scale than looking at the three pillars of what makes our festival what it is, just being music art activism, the notion, the idea that art and activism can be on the same level playing field as music, that was revolutionary. Nobody had marketed that the way that we did. And you look at these great materials we would put out, and you'd see the big headliners, the big music artists, but then you'd see the environmental groups, the community organizations on the same line, same font, same size, as these very important social and community institutions of change. And no one had really done that before. And that changed the whole industry. And other organizations and other festivals started paying attention to that as Forecastle grew in scale and said, wait a second, maybe we can do that too. And that's what you want. That's how you create transformative change. You lead by example. And that's what we did with Forecastle. So to sum it up for everyone, number one, put the right people on the bus, let them come up with the model for change. Number two, inspire that change through a very impactful motto, mantra, message. And number three, once you've got that scale and that critical mass, challenge yourself to innovate every day in every way. And that's how you can create transformative change in your community, in your country, one people, one planet. Thank you.